This is a very important video as I'm getting a lot of the same questions over and over on the channel, which is great. Like, I do want to know what are the things that you guys want to know about getting the most amazing hair you can possibly get genetically, reversing hair loss naturally, all of these different things. And it's normal that I get more questions than the average person because, well, I'm the only one who talks about this shit. I'm the only one who actually went on this journey of natural hair loss reversal / hair maxing as a whole. Now, in case you're new here, I'm just gonna go through the obvious stuff. So first of all, shampoo is disgusting, it's trash, it causes hair loss, it permeates toxins through your scalp, which also disrupt your endocrine system and do all these different things that are just terrible for your hair. And you need shampoo because it leaves your hair in a disgusting, sorry state, which leads to the overproduction of oil, which leads to the dandruff that you are trying to suppress with the shampoo. So the solution to that is to wash your hair with raw eggs, and this is what we're going to discuss here, which also nourish your hair topically, improve growth, and don't actually exacerbate scalp inflammation via toxicity, which is what can cause hair loss in people who are genetically prone to it. Now that this is out of the way, let's get on with it. So the first question that I wanted to address was whole egg versus egg yolks alone, because I know that common advice suggests that you should only use the yolk for washing your hair. You might have heard this from other people. The thing is, I've always used the whole egg, more specifically 2 whole eggs, to wash my hair every single time, right? Now, the reason why people tell you to only use the yolk is because the white in its raw form contains something called avidin, which does bind to the biotin and prevents the transdermal absorption. But the thing is, it's a very minor effect. It's not that big of a deal. And you get much more benefit from the protein and from the extra nourishment the white provides you rather than taking it all away together just to gain a little bit of biotin bioavailability. So again, I don't think it's that worth it to get rid of the white. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of an extra step that you don't really need. Just mix the 2 in a cup and apply it to your hair. It's fairly simple, right? Now, there is a case scenario in which you only want to do yolks, and that is if you are prone to very, very dry hair. Because the truth is, the white actually helps clean your hair really, really well, right? So, if you're prone to dryness for some reason, if for some reason when going on no shampoo, you don't get oily hair, you just get dryness, you just have that kind of genetic makeup, then it could actually be more indicated for you to only use the yolks, as they are much more gentle. They'll still clean your hair, they'll still give you the shine, the benefits, the growth benefits and whatever, but they're not going to over dry your hair if you have that predisposition. But in the majority of cases, you should be using the whole egg. Now, some other metrics that are useful to know is to use 1 whole egg if your hair is anywhere from short to mid-length, and to use 2 if your hair is like my length or even longer. You would need really, really long hair to require 3 eggs. So 1 or 2 eggs, you should be good. And if you're doing the yolks, then you want to add a yolk to compensate for the white. So you do 2 yolks for mid-length hair. You can get away with 1 yolk if your hair is like really, really short. And then what I would do at my actual hair length is like 3 to 4 yolks, right? And another thing that I want to mention is that some people are asking me about, you know, hydrating their hair properly so that, again, it's not too dry. You know, a lot of people with drier hair types tend to need a little bit more support, a little bit more intricate planning for this stuff. Well, doing only the egg yolks is good. Obviously, I've talked about mixing in raw honey as well in your natural shampoo mixture. That is also very good. Now, a third thing you can also add is pure aloe vera gel, 100% natural. That will make your hair so shiny, so beautiful, so goddamn nice, okay? If you have the combination of those 3, egg, honey, aloe vera, and for 1 egg, I would do 1 teaspoon of raw honey, or even 2 teaspoons. Honestly, I kind of play around with these quantities, but what I would do now is like 1 teaspoon of aloe vera gel and maybe 2 teaspoons of raw honey per egg, right? But it's not that big of a deal if you go somewhat above that, somewhat below that. I experiment with this stuff all the time. But yeah, you do this mixture. and then you do it on top, you do it on the ends, you massage it in for 15 minutes. Again, I talk about this all the time. You want to use this opportunity to massage it into your scalp for multiple different benefits, but also reducing scalp tension, which can contribute to hair regrowth / loss prevention. And then you rinse it off with cold water. Obviously, you don't want to cook the egg. You can use lukewarm-ish water as well if you really can't handle the cold, but you might get slight chunks of cooked egg white, but personally, I don't really mind it. That stuff gets removed fairly easily, and the benefits far outweigh the cons. Now, I get a lot of questions about microneedling as well, which is good because it's one of the most useful things that you can do to synthesize collagen production in your scalp, which will improve your hair quality and your hair growth, of course, as well as blood flow, as well as increasing the absorption of your hair mask. You know, you should be combining your microneedling with the hair mask that you're doing on a weekly basis. So the hair mask is like this natural concoction of ingredients that you make: oils, butter, spices, different natural things to feed your hair directly and to keep it on for about 3 to 6 weeks. And you want to do, wait, did I say weeks? No, don't do that. You're gonna develop a whole living ecosystem on your scalp if you do that. Now, 3 to 6 hours, okay? And before that, you want to use a dermastamp, and you can do dermastamp 2 times a week, even 3 times a week, as you get used to it, as the months go on. But when you're starting out, start with 1 millimeter. Don't be a bitch. Anything below 1 millimeter, you can barely feel it. It does nothing. It is supposed to hurt, guys. You are supposed to feel the needles puncturing your skin. The whole point is to create these micro tears. The whole point is to give damage that your body is forced to send resources, is forced to synthesize extra collagen in order to repair them. And at 1 time a week frequency, you got plenty of time for that to repair. A lot of people are too conservative about microneedling. They're like, oh yeah, do it once a month. Some people go to the dermatologist and pay exorbitant sums of money to get this stuff done once a month, which is barely effective. And also, you can do the same at home with a 10 to 20 to 30, if you want to get like the higher quality stuff, price range. This is ridiculous, guys. Get a dermastamp. You can also adjust the needle length. As I said before, you can't do that with a derma roller. Derma rollers are complete trash, as I said. They create these like crevices on your scalp, which can actually get infected fairly easily, and that also don't heal quite as well. Remember, once you increase your microneedling frequency to 2 to 3 times a week, a dermastamp is much more precise. And it doesn't take as long as people think. Like a derma roller might be easier to use, but a dermastamp is only going to take you like maybe 3 minutes to cover your whole scalp, so that's fine, okay? Start with 1 millimeter, then go up to 1.5 millimeters. You could do that within a month time frame, I think. That's what I've done. And once you get used to it, once you've been doing like once a week microneedling with 1.5 millimeters for about like 2 months, what I like to do is I like to go up to 2 millimeters or even 3 millimeters. And the reason why I do this, I don't shove the whole 3 millimeters, obviously that's ridiculous. But what I do is at that point you develop some kind of intuition where you just know how much it is actually supposed to hurt to trigger growth without actually unnecessarily damaging your scalp. Kind of like how you're training and you know what good soreness is versus what bad soreness is, right? So when you develop this kind of intuition, what you can do, especially if you have like really thicker, dense hair, because in some areas you're gonna have to wrangle your hair around in order for the stamp to penetrate. Some areas are denser in hair than other areas. So what you want to do is to get it to 3 millimeters or 2.5 or 2, whichever one. I do it with 3 millimeters personally because I know how to be precise with the force that I apply. And yeah, you just use it and you adapt to the force based on how much scalp access the stamp has in that particular area. So yeah, that's basically it for the progression scheme, and I would recommend to do 2 times a week for at least, to be conservative, because again, I'm extreme. I always do things very excessively, and I want to recommend you guys things that might hurt you, that might actually cause certain issues. I don't care if I hurt myself, I don't care if I make mistakes, but I like to be a little bit more conservative. I still push to do things with much more intensity than most people do. I still want to keep it a safe range. So 3 times a week microneedling is really if you're a pro, is really if you've been doing this for a while. I think you can upgrade to 2 times a week after 2 months of doing it consistently. Now another thing is gut health, of course, one of the main causes of hair loss, one of the main causes of, well, basically any health issues, acne, skin, etc. And the thing about it is that you need to go through a gut reset phase in which you starve the overactive bad bacteria that you've built through horrible habits, while also giving a chance to your gut lining to repair, right? So you want to give it the correct nutrition, which does not cause systemic inflammation, which does not feed the bad bacteria, while at the same time introducing a gargantuan amount of the positive bacteria, of the good bacteria that helps you digest food, that helps you get more nutrients out of the food that you consume, and that helps rebuild your gut over time, right? So what I advocate for is a gut reset protocol where you cut out basically all sugar, because sugar feeds the bad bacteria. It doesn't really matter what the source is, right? This is temporary. Long-term ketosis is not something I necessarily advocate for. You can reintroduce carbs later on when your gut is in a much better state to actually digest them, and you're not dealing with those issues anymore. But in that reset, you want to go zero carb basically for at least a month, if not 2, depending on the severity. And then, yeah, just consume animal products, just consume a lot of fat. You want to consume a lot of fat on this, right? A lot of omega-3s, you want to maximize the hair-maxing minerals that I talk about it all the time. Selenium, iodine, copper, sulfur. Well, sulfur you get from meat anyways, but MSM supplementation can be a great addition to megadose it. Sulfur is, after all, one of the primary building blocks of your hair. Iron, that's fairly easy to get. Silica, that's fairly easy to supplement. You get it in ionic liquid form. But yeah, basically you maximize all of those things within a proper carnivore diet. And the key thing here is to reintroduce probiotics and consume foods that are easily digestible. So I know that some people actually struggle with digesting cooked meat, especially ground beef, right? Whereas things like fish, things like eggs are much easier to digest for somebody with a compromised gut. Some people might digest cooked ground beef better. It really depends on individuality, but this is what I've observed times and times again. In that case, if you're open to it, raw meat is a really good option. Now, the thing about raw meat is that there's nothing esoteric or crazy about it, okay? It gives you loads of hydration, it gives you all the water-soluble vitamins, it gives you a decent amount of good bacteria as well. It's far easier to digest than cooked meat, and it doesn't give you the acrylamides and other slightly harmful compounds that are created via cooking, okay? So there's a bunch of different benefits that are objectively true. So during this gut reset, if you really want to maximize it, I do suggest consuming your meat as raw as possible. And if you can't do fully raw, if you've got a mental block about it, that's okay. You know, I'm trying to help as many people as possible. I don't believe in being a 100% raw meat cultist or anything like that. But at least you can cook your steaks less and less. And as long as you get them from a good source, which you should anyways, even if you cook your meat, you should still get it from a high quality source. You should invest into your health as much as possible, because that's investing into how good you feel, into how good you look, into how clearly you think, into your rate of aging lowering, all of these things, right? I don't understand how people say that food is expensive while spending their money on complete garbage that they don't need. It's like, no, food is not expensive if you make it a priority in your life, okay? So, yeah. This is what I recommend for the gut reset. And of course, consume kefir, right? Get the good bacteria in. Get as much good bacteria in as humanly possible, okay? Consume 1 cup of kefir a day. Ideally, raw milk kefir. If not, make your own with A2 milk, because A2 milk is much easier to digest. And regular pasteurized milk can cause people some issues. But if you can't do any of those, then you can get regular kefir. That'll still do the job for most people. I'm just telling you like these different degrees of optimization that you can do. But point is, do kefir. If you really struggle, if for some reason your gut really doesn't agree with kefir, there's other fermented food options such as sauerkraut, kimchi, etc. Or you can just get the probiotics in supplement form, right? That actually can be an option that is very convenient, especially when traveling. So yeah, it's basically just a game of consuming very easily digestible foods while starving out the bad bacteria, while maximizing all the hair-maxing nutrients while rebuilding your gut microbiome. And you do that for an intense period, and then afterwards, when your gut is in a much better state, then you can reintroduce carbs if you so desire. And by the way, what I'm telling you here is exactly how you can clear your skin naturally as well. I'm going to talk about it more in depth in another video, but his gut reset doubles as a very important skin maxing practice. Now, another thing that really needs to be beaten down, especially for people who are struggling, especially with people that have wavering conviction, is that things can get worse before they get better. This is not 100% always the case. Some people experience great, amazing initial results and all of their hair issues go away basically instantly when starting this, but this isn't always the case. Some people, they actually experience adverse effects because their scalp is not used to this type of regimen, right? They might get more dandruff, they might experience a little bit more hair fall at the beginning. This is completely normal, guys. Even when you get on synthetic treatments like finasteride, minoxidil, dutasteride, you will experience hair fall at the beginning as well for a variety of reasons, but one of them is that your hair growth cycle has actually been accelerated. So all the hairs that were going to fall anyways, that were in the resting phase, have been accelerated to the exogen phase in which they are falling out. This is what happens on synthetic treatments, and this is what is also occurring to you when starting your hair maxing journey. Okay, so don't panic if you get a little bit of hair shedding at the beginning. It's completely normal, and it's a sign that it's actually working really well. And if you're not getting any hair shedding and any issues, that's fine as well. It really depends on what stage of growth your hair is at, what kind of issues you had prior. There's just so many different confounding variables like, you know, genetics and past environmental triggers which will influence how you react to natural hair maxing at the beginning. But the end point of it is the same for everyone. Things got worse for me as well, especially in the dandruff and itchiness department. My scalp was really itchy when I cut off shampoo and I started washing with raw eggs. But guess what? I persisted and it resolved within a month. It might take 2 months for some people, that's fine. But you have to understand that you have to go through this transition phase so that you never have scalp issues again. You never have hair issues again, okay? It's the same thing with the oiliness, right? I talk about this so many times. You should know this by now. Your hair gets greasy because the shampoo causes your scalp to overproduce it, which is a very stressful process, which actually exacerbates scalp inflammation even more, as if the toxicity of the shampoo permeating through your scalp wasn't enough. And this can cause hair loss in the people who are genetically predisposed to it. So get through the transition phase. If you're really struggling with it, honey is a good antifungal, good antibacterial. You're already washing with it, that's fine. Another thing you can do is add tea tree oil at a concentration of 10%. You can mix it with castor oil, which also will help with hair thickness, hair growth, hair shine. It's one of the best base oils for your hair. So yeah, peppermint oil, which is more growth focused, will also help with reducing dandruff as well. And remember the gut reset, because at the end of the day, leaky gut is one of the main causes of dandruff, believe it or not, right? So there's multiple different things that can lead to the same outcome. But if you do all these things, and if you just persist, and if you're just patient, and if you just truly immerse yourself in this new way of living and stop kind of fence sitting and wondering if it'll work and checking your hair every single day, you will get results, right? A lot of people, they stress themselves out too much, and they constantly reaffirm to themselves that they are losing hair by constantly checking. And due to that stress alone, not only are they not going to be consistent, not only are they going to fall off and not get the benefits when they are about to get them, right? Because they couldn't go through the transition phase, but also that stress in itself will cause you to lose more hair. That stress in itself will age you more. That stress in itself will make you more miserable, okay? So trust the process. This is the same as with everything. It was the same at the beginning for me as well, and it was even harder because I had to figure this out in its entirety. I had to put all of this together and do so many different experiments until devising a system that actually worked, right? Now, another thing is sunlight. A lot of people seem to still be brainwashed to think that sunlight is bad for them and that you should like cover your scalp from the sun or something. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the sun. It should be a fairly obvious point. It should be fairly obvious to you that, hey, you evolved to be in the sun, okay? The sun is extremely beneficial. How could the thing in nature that stimulates your mitochondrial function the most by far be bad for you? Oh, but in excess, yeah, well, excess water is bad for you. Consume 6 liters of water, you're gonna die. Consume 10 liters of water uninterrupted, you're gonna die, right? But the thing about the sun is that, naturally speaking, in your ancestry's base country, you would spend a lot of time in the sun, okay? for the majority of the length of your genetic code, right? The reason why people struggle with the sun nowadays is because of their diet, is because their skin composition is omega-6 dominant and contains trans fats and contains all of that garbage instead of being properly made out of omega-3 fatty acids as well as saturated fat in general. I do not burn. I've sunbathed this entire summer for hours and hours on end, sometimes multiple times a week. Not a single sunburn. I just tanned beautifully, okay? So, fix your diet and microdose the sun if you're really, really pale, and you will be fine, okay? It is really good for your skin. It is really good for your hair. It is mandatory for your hair. 86% of people who experience androgenic alopecia are vitamin D deficient. That should tell you something. And deficient is based on the RDA, which is low as fuck. Okay? The optimal amount that is recommended by the fucking World Health Organization is low. It's for slaves. It's for bottom feeders. You should be getting 10,000 IUs of vitamin D a day minimum. And you should get a lot more during the summer so that it gets released later on, because you can actually store it when it's absorbed in the skin, whereas it doesn't work the same with supplements. Supplements are not as bioavailable. It's just so much better to get it from the sun. As a side note, red light therapy is pretty good. Concentrating red light on your scalp and doing it every single day will give you a decent amount of benefit that you get from the sunlight spectrum, except it's more concentrated. That is also a good option, but definitely prioritize the sun. Now, to circle back to hair maxing more specifically, there is no such thing as natural shampoo. Stop asking me about based. Stop asking me about this shampoo formula with 100% natural ingredients. Bro, there's no such thing. Can you consume those shampoos? No, you can't, right? The only non-consumable thing you can arguably use for your hair is a natural soap, and that's because sodium hydroxide makes it way too alkaline to ingest, but it doesn't infer any kind of toxicity permeating through your scalp. But this is not the case for shampoos. And also, why would you even want to look for natural shampoos when raw eggs are literally such a godsend, when you get to nourish your hair with so much valuable nutrition, micronutrients, fat, protein, just all of it, and it also cleans your hair? Like, I don't get the whole natural shampoo conversation. You can use bentonite clay, you can use certain natural soaps, and you can use that in combination with raw eggs if you need more thorough washing, for example, after your hair mask, but that's about it. There's no natural shampoo. Stop it. Commit to raw eggs. They're fucking everything. The last point that might be a little bit niche, but is of exceeding importance that I need to tell you, because you can actually lose hair from this alone if you're not careful, is always travel with a shower filter. Okay? Now, I've gotten you, hopefully, to install one in your home, and that's great, but you should also travel with one. It is accepted by the majority of hairlines, even in your carry-on bag, so it should be okay. Just take something that isn't obviously too bulky or anything, but always travel with a shower filter, especially if you're going to countries in Southeast Asia, if you're going to countries in Latin America, if you're going to India for some reason. I don't know why you're going to India, but if you're going to India, this is especially for you. Bring a shower filter, because the quality of water there is so bad. It is significantly worse than our toxic water in the Western world. And a lot of people have actually reported hair fall from showering in those places without a proper filter. So always bring your shower filter when traveling, and with that in mind, do pick a model that obviously isn't too bulky, that you can pack nicely, especially if you're like me and you only want to travel with carry-on baggage. So yeah, I hope this video was valuable to you and shed some light on certain questions that you might have had about this journey, and please share these videos with as many people as possible. Of course, I benefit from that, but what is really important is to know that most people are unaware of how to actually take care of their hair. Most people are unaware of how to take care of their health in general, but this specific aspect is very, very overlooked. And I would have given anything for me to come across my own videos 5 years ago, 6 years ago, even 3 years ago. Okay, I would have given anything. I would have paid thousands of dollars just to be able to go back in time and acquire this knowledge. So let's help each other out. If you're still watching, I really appreciate you. And as always, Keep ascending.